I have a story for you guys. It is my first failed business venture. So back when I was in college and I was just about to get married, about 8 weeks before it was time to get out into the world, I realized oh crud, no one prepared me for this. So my parents told me you have to go to college. So I went to college, but I didn't know that you actually were going to have a degree to make enough money to live on. That was astounding. And so I was shocked and I was like, what am I going to do? Well, I remembered from earlier in childhood that those that were self-employed seemed to always have a little extra cash, a little more freedom, a little more discretion. So I was like, maybe I need to start a business. And so my wife and I, as we're calling around, trying to find a right apartment for the right amount, etc., I was realizing that we were going to be desperately short on a budget. Our budget typically had 9 categories, or that's the training that I had received, is that your budget needs about 9 or 10 strong categories. And the farthest I could stretch our budget was about 7 categories. I'm like, man, we are going to be in some serious hoo-hoo if we don't move forward and find an avenue to make some income. So I was in a restaurant, and as I was leaving, I saw this guy that was window cleaning, and I was like, that's interesting. The restaurant, he doesn't have the clothes on that the restaurant, I think it was in Pizza Hut. He doesn't have the Pizza Hut uniform on, so who is this guy? I was like, so you're cleaning the windows. Tell me a little bit about that. And he's like, oh man, it's awesome. I am self-employed. I work for myself. I'm making about $30 an hour. And in 1998, when the minimum wage was $5.15 an hour, here he is making 6 times the amount. Now, I know the current minimum wage is just over $7. So if you consider he was making $42 an hour at the time, I would say there's no way that business hasn't increased their rates. So he's probably making $50 or $60 an hour in today's terms. But here's this guy and he's like, oh, it's easy, man. There's very low overhead. It's very simple to get into. I was like, really? He's like, look what I got. I have a bucket. I've got a squeegee. I've got this little scrubber thing, that's just about it. And I'm like, wow, that is insane. And you also have to remember, this was before the YouTube revolution. Before you could get all this information, you had to actually go out there and get the information yourself. And so I was like, I think that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to get into window cleaning. And the guy was right. I could get most of the tools I needed for average jobs for just about under $100. And I could get the chemicals as I needed them. And if I needed an extension pole, I could work that in. And I was like, this is an affordable business. I was like, if that guy's making $30 an hour, 30 times 40 or 50 or 60 hours a week, that's good money. We could live. And so I decided that's what I was going to do. So I went and bought the equipment first, which is only $100, but $100 when you're broke is tough. So I bought all the stuff first and got excited first and kind of started going over the plan first. And then on top of that, I went to a pretty refined school. And so I knew how to dress, and I was already had classy clothes, and suits and ties, and I've still got 70 or 80 ties in the closet that one of these days will die for as they go retro and want to go back to the 90s time period or whatnot to, wear some of these ties if they ever come back in that fashion. So anyway, I knew how to dress as a businessman. And so I get out and it's like, I just got to get out there Monday morning and start going to businesses. And so I'd walk in dressed to the nines. I'm obviously the nicest dressed person in that portion of the city because it wasn't a great portion of the city. I was dressed better than the workers. I was dressed better than most of the store managers, etc., because they were just more blue-collar working managers, etc. And people thought I was, big stuff, or I thought I was big stuff, being 22 and dressed up and out there conquering the world. And I was like, all I got to do is get some contracts. And I remember going to the first business, and they're like, we've already got somebody. I was like, Okay, all right, that's a no. All right, so no big deal. So go on to the next and go to the next place. And they're like, he's not in. You have to come back. I'm like, okay, go to the next place. The guy looks, it's like, what? We don't need window cleaning. Like, who needs window cleaning? Okay, let's go to the next place. We've already got somebody. Okay, we go to the next place. We've already got somebody. And to be honest, when you get a lot of no's in a row, and I was a natural introvert, very quiet, very reserved, had to really be sure of myself to extend and exert myself. But since I was, like really dressed up and people thought I was important until they found out I really wasn't that important, I could make a good impression and I could at least do my sales pitch. I'd come in, I was like, hey, I'm starting a window cleaning company. I wanted to give you a price on your windows. And I had no idea, no comprehension what I was doing, but I will learn on the fly and I will fix it and I will do whatever it takes to make this work. And so I began to find out that the area was sewed up. Everybody already had a window cleaner. And I was amazed. I was like, here we are. We've got stores side by side, by side, by side. And here I was arriving late to the game. So take that as a business lesson in and of itself. Is like, if the market is hyper saturated, it's going to be very hard to make a dent. But I was too dumb to know better. And so I kept pushing forward. So I pushed forward and finally got a store that said, hey, yeah, we'll use you. You can come here every month. Yeah, we'll support that. We would like our windows to be clean. Looking back, I really think they were trying to support me. I think they were excited that somebody was out there trying to make a living because this was a family carpet business, and everything they did was in a house, and they're like, this guy, he cares about being an entrepreneur, so let's support him. And sure, let's throw him $60 a month since we're in the carpet industry and we're making a killing. And so, I was excited, and I got there and I learned about my equipment. It's probably one of the worst and sloppiest jobs I've ever gotten into. I was like, man, this squeegee, like, how does this work? And like, oh, there's technique to this. And oh, the rags or the paper towels are leaving, marks. And I should have known that I needed a rag to keep the lint off, or, etc. So you're working through all these problems. I got it done. I did a fantastic job, and the lady wanted me back, which was great. So I pushed on a little farther down that street, and I was like, I'm just going to keep going at this. Then I landed my next job at the post office, and I was ecstatic. I was like, wow, I can't believe the government has an opening for a citizen. Like, and I'm a nobody. Is there really that much cooperation and freedom in our country that here I am, seriously, I've only had one other contract, one other job in my life with window cleaning, and now the post office is okay with this. I was like, man, that's neat. And they had a lot of windows. Well, then I found out about double pane windows and the garbage that can be in between them that'll never get clean, and how you might not satisfy your customer. So this was not going well. Before this totally failed, again, I'm telling you about hypersaturation. I was going from one store to the next, getting rejection, but also learning about dealing with human beings, dealing with businesses, dealing with perseverance. And the whole of this turned out that I made enough basically to buy my equipment back and maybe take my wife out to eat. So was that a win? Except here's how it ended. As I get to the very end of things, I'm running out of steam and all this kind of stuff, and I was working my way down, and I got to a property where they was like, we don't own this property. We can't tell you that you can clean the windows or not. Up here on the hill, those guys own it. So I go up there to a home that had been turned into a business. I would have never thought to go there to ask anybody about anything. I walk in there, and the guy's like, You're trying to start a window cleaning business? I was like, yeah. He goes, well, you're very clean cut, and you look, pretty sharp. I'm just quoting this guy. And I was like, well, thank you. And he's like, you seem to have a good mind. I'm like, well, I did go to college. I know a thing or two. And so he was like, why don't you just come work for me? I was like, no, I'm starting a window cleaning business. He's like, oh, no, you need to come work for me. I was like, why? He said, I want you to come manage my apartments. I was like, do what? Manage your apartments? And I told the guy no. I was like, no, this sounds too good to be true. I was really still very skeptical about everything. But I was like, this sounds too good to be true. I basically told the guy no, and he's like, I want your number. I was like, okay. So I give him my phone number. I go home to think about it. And go home and tell my wife, and she's like, that sounds like a great idea. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know what he pays. I don't know if he's telling me the truth. I mean, it was a little house that had been converted into a business. I don't know. I didn't know much about the world. Well, I finally decided to give it a go. And, because he called me, and he said, have you been thinking about the offer? And I'm like, not really. He said, listen, it comes with absolutely free rent. I was like, he said, it's got free rent and all of your utilities are paid for. And you don't have to go anywhere. Your office is in your living room and people come to you. And I was like, well, I don't want to let go of my UPS job. I mean, that UPS job in the evenings is rocking. I'm doing really well at that. And I don't want to let that go. And I still want to kind of do my own business thing. He's like, oh, no. So free rent, free utilities, and I'm going to pay you $200 a week as if you're working, close to full time. And then you start adding all that up. And I was like, wow. So because I was actually out there hustling and trying, somebody saw my effort. Like I said, one business wanted to support me. I don't know what any of the other businesses saw, but here's this guy. He's like, oh, I know how to look for talent. And you're out there getting after it. So you come manage my business. And I did that for about a year. And in the process was able to pay off all sorts of debts. I was able to give to charity, which is one of the things I really wanted to do. So I was able to give a huge chunk every single month and every single week to charity. I loved that. And then on top of that, I was able to buy some pretty cool stuff during that time period. I ended up with a few little toys that, me and my wife were very athletic. And so we like to go mountain bike riding and go play tennis and go play frisbee golf and all kind of wonderful things. And so the moral of this story is if you'll get out there and hustle, if you will get out there and try, you never know what you're going to stir up or how it's going to actually pay off.